Nicole is the mother of Madison Baldwin.
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. If you could please state your full name for the record.
Nicole Beausoleil?
Thank you. And is there something you wish to state to the court this morning?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, ma'am.
Morning, Your Honor. Madison Baldwin, a name that most didn't know prior to this horrific act, but now a name that everyone has come to love. A name that has brought so much joy to the world. Your Honor, I know you haven't had the privilege to know her, only of what you've heard. She is an old soul, wiser beyond her years. At only 17, she has taught me more than I could ever thank her for. Having her young myself, she made me the mother I am today. She gave me the courage to be stronger. A few key things about Madison was her laughter, contagious smile, intelligence, passion, kindness, fearless drive, and determination. She is the light when you need it most. When the world gets dark, she's the stars. That small beacon of light that is so far to see, but up close burns like wildfire. At times I catch myself missing these characteristics, worried that I might forget them, but then I realize she's here. Madison lives in all of us. Her legacy remains, her kindness continues, now and forever. She will always be the heartbeat of our family. On November 30th, 2021 is a day that has forever changed my life. It burns into my body like a cigarette burn. Enough to scar, but always a constant reminder. The day I found out that my daughter's life was taken. A life that was still so young and full of life. After that day, she became a statistic, a victim, a planned act of tragedy. How could my daughter be summarized in such intrusive manner? How could these now be her associations? I would like you to know that these accusations are false. I will not allow her name to be followed by the phrase Oxford shooting victim. She will be remembered by her name, a name that is loved unconditionally, one that has no hidden remark. The strong name we gave her, Madison. When I received word that the school was under attack, my daughter had already been gone for over an hour. This I didn't know while driving into a designated area pretty much on autopilot, waiting for the unknown. As I paced the Myers asking where my daughter was, all I received was blank stares. As the remaining kids reunited with their families, we were left there in silence, waiting for the answers that we are still waiting for. Next thing I hear, can the family of Madison Baldwin follow me? As I walked into the room, I felt this chill come across to my body, so cold that I felt it in my bones. I pleaded not to go in, but following command, the words we heard were, I don't have good news on these 3 children. They are deceased. The sheer blunt statement could destroy you to the core. I was completely paralyzed. I felt every scream that came from my body. I felt every breath I took was fading. My mind was in a state of dementia, and then my body dropped to the floor. We were literally suffocating together in disbelief. Replaying those words in my head, within seconds, I thought, did I hear them right? I was definitely misinformed. The sobs came from a deep part in me. Tears soaked the cold floor I laid on. I managed a few calls, but conversations I've blocked out. Leaving for the substation, I stared out the window looking for her, but replaying those words in my head. My mind and heart were literally in two different places. The rest of the night was excuse after excuse on why I couldn't be taken to my daughter. I needed to see her. I needed to prove that the information was not meant for me. But all I was offered was a table the next day at the medical examiner's office to identify her. Getting back home felt like forever. I had to tell her 11-year-old sister at the time that her best friend was gone. Peyton's screams will forever haunt me. And when she asked me that simple question, why? As a mom, I didn't have the answer. The next morning, I was on my way to prove somebody wrong at the medical examiner's office. In my head, it wasn't going to be her. As I walked down the corridor, I entered into a room with a steel door and a small glass window. I couldn't move my feet. I couldn't get close enough to look. But when I remembered, I was there to prove somebody wrong. I looked through the glass. My scream should have shattered it. My daughter's lifeless body was laying on a cold metal gurney. I remember her hand laying out from underneath the sheet, and her fingernails were blue. Blood smeared in her hair, and they made sure I saw her from a side that was more acceptable for a grieving mother. That was not my daughter. Madison was far from lifeless. As I banged on the door demanding to touch her, I lost my ability to stand. I was dragged away from her. I was not allowed to touch my own daughter. I was not allowed to hold her hand and just let her know I was there. It's a feeling that no parent should ever feel. But that's my baby. I deserved the right to be with her, but I was not allowed. Instead, I was dragged away from her, screaming like a toddler, saying profanities in the most ignorant way. That is when I realized I could no longer deny it. I didn't want to admit I was wrong. I didn't want to visualize a moment without her. I didn't want to believe she was gone. But it hit me like a semi-truck. I knew her dreams were no longer the future, but only dreams. Your Honor, I thank you for the dedication to this infuriating act. I admire your knowledge of the law and the stance onto listening to all, keeping your composure and consistency throughout this sentencing. I thank you for the clear representation of your courtroom. I thank you for the countless hours that this has taken from you and your family's life to give the best possible judgment. I thank you for being a human being. To the prosecution and advocates, Karen, Mark, David, and countless others, I thank you for the constant efforts to keep my daughter's legacy alive. The righteous hours, the rigorous hours that have consumed you, your nonstop actions to make sure all facts are given appropriately, your compassion for our family. Jen, my advocate, and others, advocates, I thank you for picking me up on some of my worst days and moments that I thought my life was not valuable, keeping me sane during every moment, even when weakness was at its worst. You all have remembered my daughter and kept her spirit alive in the most prestigious manner. Thank you for taking away from your life to get justice for her life. And lastly, thank you for doing the unthinkable, the tragic, the raw, the vulnerable, and infuriating moments when I know it breaks you inside to make sure that we are the slightest bit okay, to make sure we continue, that we remember, and that we keep fighting for justice. To the waste that took my daughter's life, that name will never come out of my mouth. That life will cease to exist to me, and just like trash, it will be forgotten. So while the attention that he has been seeking for this horrendous crime, you will get no reaction from me. But again, this is the life he chose. If he really wanted to make a different outcome, he wouldn't continue to make the excuses he does now. The suffering will come when he least expects it. The regret will consume you as you sit alone with the only voices in your head. Guilt would eat away at your soul. This might not happen tomorrow, next year, or 10 years, but it will happen. As you get older, you will realize the path you've chosen, and it will haunt you. Just like the idol that you admire so much, both of you forgotten in the system. And when these emotions flood into your body like you're bleeding out, no one will be there to save you. No one will forgive you. Your hand will no longer be held as you claim insanity. Your outburst for attention will go unnoticed. No one will love you and no one will come. As I don't wish death upon you, that would be too easy. I hope the thoughts consume you and they replay over and over in your head. The thoughts won't stop. I'm sure you heard that paraphrase before. I hope the screams keep you up at night and they cause real hallucinations. You won't be able to write it on paper for the attention that you so badly seek. Those four walls become your home, suffocating in guilt. It will come, I promise you. I'm happy you decided not to be a coward that day and take your own life. I'd much rather you stick around to see what the life you have chosen for, what suffering really feels like, and that your significance is not above anyone else. I truly feel sorry for you that you thought this would be a better life choice. So, Your Honor, I have chosen forgiveness. We live in a world where forgiveness is not deserved, but needed. Forgiveness, a word that holds so much controversy. What does it really mean? To me, forgiveness is an encouragement. It encourages me to forgive the things that are out of my control. I have chosen to forgive for myself. In some that might seem weak or giving in, it's my new journey with Madison, because honestly, that is who she was and that is what she would have done. I no longer carry that burden. It does not define me. It does not define her, or it does not define our family. I forgive myself for the grief that at times felt like multiple stab wounds, but managed to survive. I forgive myself for the weak moments of fear of the world around me. The time it's taken from my family and loved ones, time I will never get back. I forgive myself for not allowing joy and happiness in my life, to reflect and to learn. I forgive myself for any anger that raged inside me and I took out on the ones I love, in hopes that this would destroy me or suffering would be unbearable. You failed. I'm so much stronger than you, and your weakness consumes you. I don't choose to forgive the destructive nature that caused her death. Forgiving is a choice. I choose not to forgive you for the choice you made. This is exactly what you wanted. This is not a life that I would ever want to live. What this has done is ignited the light that I thought I lost, Madison's light. Your Honor, I hope you stamp his fate with whatever fate that might be, to continue to live the life sentence that he researched, that his life sentence is the same as my life sentence I received, as a life sentence that I cannot escape from. Day by day passes, I hope his life seems more meaningless, lost and forgotten. So when my time comes, and I will never worry if our paths or fates will ever meet again, but when our true day of judgment comes, my justice will be served. That his life sentence will continue so that he may live in his own personal prison for eternity, with no one waiting for him. I can only wish him the best on his new life and the repercussions that follow. Your Honor, as I close this chapter and I start a new one, I would like to make one thing clear. These actions did not break me. I am not broken. I am just rearranging the pieces. I am surviving each day, navigating this journey, celebrating the good and learning from the bad, choosing happiness, forgiving when needed and when it's deserved. I am living. I'm living because of my baby girl, Madison. Thank you.
First off, now, sorry for your loss. Thank you for your statements this morning. You showed a lot of strength and courage, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Good morning, sir. If you could, please state your full name for the record and spell your last name.
Good morning. My name is Craig Schilling, Shilling.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, sir. Is there a statement that you wish to make?
Yes, Your Honor. But before I make my written statement, I'd like to have a candid moment with y'all. To try and directly convey to you that this statement has been the hardest thing I've ever written in my life. You guys have the condensed version, 15 minutes or so, but it took me months and months and months, and I've swam through raw emotions trying to get this done. So thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Thank you.
I'll begin now. Honorable Judge Rowe. I am here before you today as a direct result of the horrible crimes that were committed back on November 30th, 2021, the day that my son was murdered. For the longest time, and for reasons I do not care to mention here today, I did not know if I was going to be able to do this. You see, on that day, my life was torn apart, and for a while thereafter, I struggled with dark thoughts and found myself completely lost in a seemingly endless sea of raging emotions with no care as to what happened to me. And grief had consumed me and has squeezed out every bit of joy and happiness in my life. Still, today it's uncertain if I'll find my way back. The events that took place that day have rocked 3 generations of my family and has altered our future forever. These days, there's not much happiness in the holidays. Birthdays and those milestones days don't carry with them the special feeling they always used to. Life used to flow with some sort of rhythm and balance, and the continuity within our family was evident. There were gatherings, vacations, and fun-filled events. What I feel most would deem your typical family situation. That continuity and all that came with it were lost on the day that my son was murdered. Like a severed electrical line, the flow was no longer there. Instead, we've fallen into the darkness, still in shock and total disbelief over the fact that this actually happened to us. Completely blindsided, we've been carrying on with more questions than answers and left to deal with the deluge of emotions we've never experienced before. One could venture to say that there are no words that can accurately describe the pain that we feel on a daily basis. I have PTSD and struggle most days to even get out of bed. Anxiety, stress, sleepless nights, and uncontrolled emotional outbreaks make even the simplest, most normal things difficult. Scattered thoughts, raw emotions, and that uncomfortable elephant in the room feeling I get with everyone I interact with cause substantial uneasiness and affect everything I do. The things I used to find enjoyment in are no longer reliable in that respect and are done to merely have a feeling of something normal. Golfing, bowling, ball games, hunting, fishing, camping, kayaking are just a few of the activities I used to do with Justin that seemingly will never have the same effects on me based solely on the fact that he's not there to do them with me. I've always operated on the premise that if you get the kids into the things that you like to do, that you'll have those things in common forever and will always have a way to spend some quality time together. Even if it's just for a quick 9 or an hour on the boards blowing out a few pockets. Father's Day foursomes with my 3 kids out on the link was something I've been looking forward to for a long time, but will never have. This unfair reality is something I will never get over. Day-to-day life goes on for so many, but in the clutches of grief and heartache, the difficulties are real and have so many side effects. It almost feels like time slows down and everything around you speeds up. It's been 2 years already, but feels much like yesterday. I still find myself waiting up for him to get home from work so we can get a few minutes to chat, as it was often the only time we'd have that chance to. It's unbearable to know that he's never going to walk through that door. Never in a million years did I think that something like this was going to happen to me. Although we all know the unfortunate real possibility that this can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime, there's absolutely no way you can prepare yourself for this level of pain. It doesn't matter how much you think you've prepared, or how strong you are, or how big your support network is, you have this level of pain, and it's truly debilitating, and it takes you out. Having seen news reports and documentaries on tragedies of this nature, I don't feel it uncommon at all to watch in horror and disbelief that something like this could actually happen. And I've done what I believe many others have done, and that's have thoughts of how I might feel or act if something like this ever happened to me. Well, now that it has happened, I can 100% assure you that the worst thoughts or feelings you may have do not hold a candle to how it actually feels. For centuries, man has exploited the fragile nature of the human being, and over the years have developed many, many ways to inflict pain, torture, and kill. Millions and millions of human beings have met their fates by way of such devices. As we have all learned in school, there is a full spectrum of reasoning behind these perversions. Although throughout history, those reasons have been widely understood, the sheer brutality of senseless violence has never sat well with the human psyche. So we have evolved till now, and in our modern society, we have established laws and regulations to essentially protect ourselves from ourselves. However, as is seemingly always the case, there are those, for reasons we may never know, who wish to defy the now widely recognized and agreed upon state of human decency and continue to commit such senseless acts of violence. In my opinion, it takes a deeply disturbed individual to leave the compass of basic human decency. The act of taking another human being's life is not only exasperating, but extremely selfish and unjust. I believe that once an individual crosses the boundaries of basic humanism and admittingly maliciously kills another person, that individual should meet the same fate. Unfortunately, based on the laws that govern our land, this has been deemed inhumane and is widely frowned upon in modern society. So in lieu of execution, I feel strongly that the individual should never be allowed to walk among his peers again. And this is why I'm going to ask you to lock this son of a bitch up for the rest of his pathetic life. His blatant lack of human decency and disturbing thoughts on life in general do not in any way warrant a second chance. My son doesn't get a second chance, and neither should he. This individual has proven by carrying out these heinous and completely unnecessary acts of violence that he should never be considered fit to rejoin a society that despises this exact behavior. His very name should be condemned, recognized only by his cowardly, vile, and malicious defiance of human law. Now, with all that being said, I'd like to direct my comments toward this disgusting individual that I speak of. He sits across the room from me at this very moment, dressed in orange, emotionless. Although I'm sure he may have a half-baked idea of just what I'd like to do to him, I'm not quite sure he has adequately envisioned the exact nature of this idea. I'd really like an opportunity to physically show him how much pain he has caused me and my family. But in a civilized society, governed by complex laws such as ours, this type of display is not permitted. But you can rest assured, you piece of shit, that baby bird screams would pale in comparison to the screams that you would exude if I were only able to show you. But luckily for you, they won't let me. So I will hope, with every bit of hope I have left, that with every passing thought or memory you have about what you've done, you remember my statement and take time to imagine it happening and recognize it in the worst way possible. I've tried to put myself in your shoes and over tried to imagine what could have possibly been so horrible in your life to have caused you to commit these crimes. I actually thought long and hard and can come up with no logical explanation. The fact is that what you did was reprehensible and completely unnecessary. You see, we use things called words to convey our thoughts, and our concerns, and our opinions. Sometimes those words we share with, sometimes those who we share our words with don't hear them or choose to not listen. But this is no reason to throw a tantrum and do the wrong thing. You simply have to speak louder and to more people until you get the results you desire. Life is not easy in any sense of the word. It often feels cruel and unfair. But what you have obviously overlooked is the fact that life is the most precious gift each and every one of us receive, and you have completely wasted yours. You said you wanted to be remembered as a person who committed the biggest shooting in Michigan history, and this may be true. But I will have it entered on file at this time, on this day, for the world to know forever that Ethan Crumbley should be remembered as the biggest coward in Michigan history, an individual who unfairly preys upon unsuspecting and helpless lives without the courage to meet their same fate. A truly detestable and ignominious excuse of human being. Now, my last words for you before I conclude is that I truly hope your new roommates welcome you in properly and show you the kind of treatment you can only get on the inside, as it's clearly all you've ever wanted. And it is my hope that there is some kind of pain involved. I also think that as you rot away, lamenting over your wasted life, you should take time to ponder the fact that though you may have taken 4 lives, the selfless gesture of organ donation by my son saved at least 5 lives, thus overshadowing your delusions of grandeur and effectively nullifying all that you feel you've accomplished. Stew in that for a while, and maybe you'll realize that as long as there are good people in the world, willing to selflessly give of themselves to help others, evil will never triumph. My final thoughts are directed towards everyone else. It is with every bit of my heart that I offer all who have helped my family over the course of the last couple of years the sincerest thank you. The sheer magnitude of humanitarianism and goodwill that came in from all over the world has been humbling and has gone a long way to showing me there is still good out there. I strongly believe that it resides within each and every one of us, that it is our responsibility as human beings to let our goodness shine onto everyone we interact with, whether we like them or not. Because the way we treat each other, both directly and indirectly, affects the lives of more people than you can imagine. Not to mention, it's simply easier to do. I beg of you all, please be kind to one another and put your energy towards walking the path of the righteous and do your part to help eliminate these types of tragedies. Thank you for listening to this morning. I wish you all the very best.